Just when you thought the 49ers were going to have a drama-free offseason, Jauan Jennings enters the chat. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast. I'm Rob Stats Cabrera here with you, part of the Gold Standard Podcast Network and the Pro Football Insiders. Just when you thought the Niners were going to have a nice, calm offseason, right? They get the Brock Purdy deal done. They get the George Kittle deal done. They get the Fred Warner deal done. Everything's good, right? Rookies are going to report for camp tomorrow and vets a week after that, and everything's going to be fine. Well, turns out not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso would say, because Jauan Jennings wants a new contract. And he has told the 49ers, you either give me a new contract or trade me to somebody that will give me a new contract. It's a lot to unpack here. So let's just get into it. First, as the tweet says, if you're watching on the screen, you can see Jauan Jennings is scheduled to make $7.5 million this year. It's the last year of his deal. He got extended last season, but I think Jauan has looked at the landscape and correctly identified that this is a great time to ask the 49ers for a new deal, right? One, we don't know about Brandon Ayuk. More on that in a second. Two, Demarcus Robinson could miss the first 3 games of the year with a suspension. And then you've got unproven Ricky Pearsall in year 2 at the top of the depth chart, along with Jauan Jennings, of course. Perfect time for him to make this known. And I'm sure he's not blindsiding the 49ers with this, right? In fact, I'm sure this is part of the reason we got the, hey, Brandon Ayuk looks pretty good and could be ready for week 1 talk from Matt Mayoko last week. I don't think that's a coincidence, by the way. So I think that Jauan Jennings is matching up the time correctly. It makes sense that he's requesting this now. Couple of things here. There's different things to discuss. One, can the 49ers afford Jauan Jennings? Well, he reportedly wants something like Cooper Kupp got, apparently, which I think is like $15 million a year, something like that. 49ers can afford it. Okay. They have the cap space. They could easily do it. Certainly, at least for this year, they could bump them up if they wanted to. They have the cap space. So that's not the issue. Should they do it? That's the issue. I got to say no. And I want to be clear about this. Jauan Jennings is a solid player. Jauan Jennings exceeded anybody's wildest expectations when he was drafted as a 7th round pick. He has earned a payday. He has carved out a great career for himself, and it's a credit to him. He plays hard. He blocks, all that stuff. And if he wants to do a deal similar to the one he just signed, I'd be fine with that. Like a slight couple $1 million bump. Yeah, I'd be fine with that. But anything more than that, and I don't think the 49ers should do it. And this is, I want someone to pay Jauan Jennings, to be clear, because he deserves it. I don't want my team to be the one that pays him. The 49ers have been very good about not paying people they shouldn't pay. They let Mike McGlinchey walk out the door. They've basically replaced him with Colton McKivitz. They have let people like Emmanuel Sanders go. They've let various running backs go. They've always found a way to replace him. They have been very good at not paying people, right? They let Aaron Banks go. There was no way they should have given Aaron Banks the contract that he got from the Packers. Same thing with Jalen Moore to the Chiefs. No way they should have done that. This regime has been very good at recognizing that while this player may be a good player, it doesn't make sense for us to pay a market rate contract for this person, and they've let them go. And I think that's absolutely what the 49ers should do with Jauan Jennings. You can't keep everybody all the time. For what Jauan Jennings is, he's not worth what he wants in a new contract. Doesn't mean he doesn't deserve it. He's played well. I understand why he wants it. 49ers shouldn't be the one to give it to him. He shouldn't. They shouldn't. Sorry, especially after you gave Brock Purdy this contract. You can't keep everybody together. And I know what you're going to say. Well, what about the receivers? What are they going to do if they don't have Jauan Jennings? You'll survive with George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and the young receivers that they have on the roster. You will survive, okay? I promise you. I saw Kyle Shanahan get Richie James 100 and something yards, whatever it was. They'll be fine. This is why you invest a first-round pick in Ricky Pearsall, right? This is why you draft Jordan Watkins. This is why you draft Jacob Cowing. There's a reason the 49ers did all of this. You don't pay Jauan Jennings on, July 14th now because he suddenly wants a new deal. You just don't do it. I don't think that's a smart thing to do, quite honestly, for the 49ers. Wish Jauan Jennings the best. Thanks for everything. You were phenomenal when you were here in terms of what your role was, but you are a scheme-dependent possession receiver. And that's just the facts. That's what you are. Those guys, excuse me, those guys are replaceable. They just are. They absolutely are. And that might sound mean, and I don't mean to sound mean. Again, I like Jauan Jennings, and I want someone to pay him. I just don't want it to be the 49ers. How do you feel about it? In the chat, let me know. I'll put up as many comments as I can. Doug Hall says this is the right move right now for JJ. He and his agent are doing the right thing by going after it. Absolutely. And Jauan Jennings is not a bad guy for this at all, by any stretch of the imagination. He is completely within his rights to do it. He has timed it up perfectly. It makes sense for him to do it. None of that makes Jauan Jennings a bad guy or Drew Rosenhaus's agent a bad guy at all. I totally get it. Nobody's the bad guy. And the 49ers would not be the bad guy for saying, no, Jauan Jennings, we're not going to do this. Nobody would be the bad guy in this scenario. Like I have said, when Deebo Samuel requested a trade and wanted a new deal, when I said Brandon Ayuk, same thing. Nobody's the bad guy. Everybody's just looking out for themselves, and that's fine. That is absolutely fine. Mike UA says, why do they have to do anything? Isn't he under contract? He is under contract, and according to Adam Schefter, he is not. Okay, that's not in the tweet there that I have on the screen, but it has been reported that he is not going to hold out of training camp, but that doesn't mean that everything's hunky-dory, right? He can do the hold in. He doesn't want to stay away from training camp because he doesn't want to get fined, but that doesn't mean that everything is fine. But technically, they don't have to do anything because he is under contract. Now, he could choose not to play, but then you're in a game of chicken. It's a really weird thing. The 49ers have been here before. But let me just say, there is a reason that we got the Brandon Ayuk could be back for week 1 talk last week. There is that is not out of the blue, okay? Trust me. There is a reason that was out there. Is this as big of a disruption as Brandon Ayuk? I don't know. On the one hand, you want Jauan Jennings there, right? Because the wide receiver room is incredibly young, and he is a veteran player, and he plays exactly the way the 49ers want their wide receivers to play. So you would want that guy in there teaching them, right? That is a real thing. Culture exists, and culture spreads because people that exemplify the culture make that the standard and hold others to that. And the fact that you would have a guy in Jauan Jennings who perfectly exemplifies that culture in the wide receiver room, in one of the position groups that needs that guidance the most because of how young they are. So that's not nothing. But is it something that you break the bank for? No, in my opinion. Absolutely not. Let's see. Keeping the Faith says, in an offseason where the 49ers emphasize no drama and locked up core players, not extending Jennings yet tells you how the 49ers feel. Yeah, I don't think, again, like I said, I don't think he's just springing this on them. I'm sure he's let his opinion be known, and I'm sure that they've probably been talking for a little while. I think in I think it was Schefter's article, it said that, they've been going back and forth, but the Niners feel like they've done right by Jauan Jennings. And they have, like I said, they just extended him last season. They paid Jauan Jennings. They've done right by him. Nobody is the bad guy in this scenario. But another contract beyond what he is right now, I don't think they should do. Now, if they wanted to bump him up for this year, okay. Like, I could see that. You've got the cap space. There's no reason why they can't do it, just to bump him up this year and just give him a raise. No problem there. I'd be totally fine with that. But I was already saying that they shouldn't extend him beyond this season anyway. So, if he wants a trade or whatever, that's fine. I'm not going to shed any tears about that. Here's the other thing I'll say. Like he can say, pay me or trade me. Who are the other teams breaking down the 49ers door to acquire Jauan Jennings, to give up assets for Jauan Jennings and then pay Jauan Jennings? Like, I think Jauan fits what the 49ers do perfectly. Kyle Shanahan can help compensate for some of his physical deficiencies. Let's just be honest. And Jennings plays hard. He blocks. He makes catches on third down. He had 77 catches last year for 975 yards and 6 touchdowns. Like, there is a definite role for him in San Francisco. But who is like, oh, we got to go out? You think other teams around the league right now are clamoring to trade for Jauan Jennings? No, they're not. Because they've got guys, young players on the team that they've drafted that they're going to say, hey, let's roll with this. We don't need to give up draft picks and money for Jauan Jennings when he's probably going to be a free agent next year. Okay, that's way too small for people to see. So I don't even know like what the market is for what would you want for Jauan Jennings? What would you say is a fair value? Keep in mind, they got a 5th for Deebo Samuel, who's a hell of a lot more accomplished than Jauan Jennings, and he only got them a 5th. So what do you think you're getting for Jauan Jennings? You're probably not getting much. I can't imagine what it would be. Good morning, Tanisha. Thanks for hopping in. Tanisha's a YouTube channel member. Gabriel says, we haven't received value on second and third contracts with the exceptions being Kittle, Warner, and Trent Williams. We need to proceed with caution. The good teams, Chiefs, Eagles, etc., always let players go. And like I said, the 49ers have let players go too. Certain players, not everybody. Obviously, they've kept a lot of guys, but they've done a good job of letting certain players go. And I just think that Jauan Jennings happens to fall into that category. I'm not trying to crap on Jauan Jennings. I'm just trying to be realistic about what Jauan Jennings is and how difficult Jauan Jennings is to replace. That's all. That's it. So I hope he gets paid. I just don't want the 49ers to be the one that pays him. What do you think you get for Jauan Jennings? A 6th round pick, a 7th round pick? And if you're the 49ers, are you that much better off without Jauan Jennings on the roster, but with an extra 6th or 7th round pick next year? Like, I don't think so. I think what the 49ers should do is just give him a bump this year. Don't extend him. Don't keep him in San Francisco any longer than what he's originally under contract for. But give him a bump. Done. He can be happy, right? You get a raise this year, and then you get your freedom next year. You can choose where you want to go, which he's never had that option in his career before. And everybody wins. That to me seems like the easiest option. Now, whether Jed York wants to do that, I have no idea. I don't know. Personally, I'd like to see Jed York pony up the money to get Alfred Collins signed before they even worry about Jauan Jennings. To me, that is a much bigger deal. Much bigger. The Alfred Collins situation, he missed all of minicamp, all the preseason stuff. He's not under contract, hasn't taken a single snap with the team. He's a rookie. He needs to learn the entire defense. He needs to play this year. They really need him more than the 49ers need Jauan Jennings as a wide receiver. That is the Alfred Collins situation is a much bigger deal than Jauan Jennings. So if Jed's going to pay anybody, please pay Alfred Collins. Jauan Jennings is not that big a deal. This is not like a red alert situation for the 49ers at all. And I'd be fascinated to see how they're going to handle this. What are they going to do? Because again, what are you trading him for? And we know the 49ers don't just trade guys to trade them, right? Raheem Mostert requested a trade. They didn't trade him. Robbie Gould, as weird as it was, requested a trade. They didn't trade him. Deebo Samuel requested a trade. Brandon Ayuk requested a trade. None of those guys were traded immediately after requesting it. Obviously, Deebo was a year later. That's a different thing. So this is not new territory for the 49ers. I know everyone likes Jauan Jennings, although I feel like we're going to see the tide turn a little bit. And all of a sudden, people are going to be like, oh, he's greedy. You know, the typical thing that people say when players request more money. Sega WD says you get a better comp pick by letting Jauan Jennings walk. JM617 says Pearsall, Cowing, Watkins. If you add JJ to that lineup, it's still horribly mid. I mean, it's unproven. You know, we don't know what Pearsall, Cowing, and Watkins are yet. I don't know that we can say they're mid. I don't know we could say they're awesome. We can't say anything about them. Like, we need to see them play. Right now on paper, it's a huge question mark. That's fair. That's completely fair to say. JM617 says we needed Jauan Jennings in Arizona and he couldn't control his emotions and got thrown out. I criticized Jauan Jennings when he got thrown out of that game. But right now, if I could make you general manager of the 49ers, what would you do? Would you pay Jauan Jennings? Would you trade Jauan Jennings? Would you do nothing and say, hey, play or don't play, but we're not doing anything with your contract? I want to know. Leave a comment on the video. Leave a comment in the chat. 415 Faithful on X says they will offer 3 to 4 million bonus to make it a fair deal for this season. Then he'll become a free agent and get a bag. It just won't be from the Niners. At least that's what I hope happens. I don't even know that he's going to get a bag, to be honest with you. I really don't. Like, again, who is saying we are Jauan Jennings away from a Super Bowl, right? We really need Jauan Jennings. I don't think that there's anybody out there in the whole league. I think that he thinks his value is higher than it is. And I think his value to the 49ers is higher than it is to anybody else in the NFL. So it's kind of a weird situation. They need each other, but like not that much. At least the 49ers probably don't think that much, but they kind of do because the uncertainty in the wide receiver room. It's a perfect time for Jauan Jennings to do this. Perfectly handled. Wedge says, pay him and give him a raise. Mark says, hi. Hi, Mark. Thanks for watching. 415 Faithful says he was almost Super Bowl MVP. Yeah, he almost was. No doubt about it. Again, Jauan Jennings is not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. He is absolutely not a bad player. And he's exactly the type of player that you need on your team if you're going to do the nitty-gritty stuff and win close games. 100%. But he's also exactly the type of player you don't give a third contract to. That's the trouble, right? That's why this kind of sucks. Because, again, nobody's the bad guy, but this is just sort of the situation we're in. Yeah, he probably deserves more money. Should the 49ers be the ones that give it to him? No. I think two things can be true at the same time. Diego says he almost was Super Bowl MVP, but he used that card on the last contract restructure. Again, there was a line, and I think it was the Schefter article that says the 49ers think they have been fair to Jauan Jennings. I think they have been too. Again, nobody has been unfair and nobody's the bad guy. It makes perfect sense for Jauan Jennings to ask for more money. I just don't know that he's going to get it. I don't know how to say this. Nihil says here and now, and right now we need all the good wide receivers we can get. That's not the point, Rob. It's a team effort regardless. I would rather see the 49ers roll the receivers out and see what happens, right? Let's play it out, right? You roll out week one. Let's say Jauan Jennings says, forget it. I'm not playing, right? I don't want to go out there without a new contract. And you roll out week one against the Seahawks, and you have Ricky Pearsall and you have Jacob Cowing. Again, we're going to assume Ayuk isn't there, and we're going to assume Demarcus Robinson is suspended. So let's just say it's Cowing and Pearsall and Kittle and McCaffrey. I'm good with that. I'll take my chances against the Seahawks. Absolutely, I will. And then guess what? You play a couple weeks with those two guys, and then Demarcus Robinson is going to come back. And then eventually Brandon Ayuk is going to come back. We don't know when. It could be 4 weeks without Brandon Ayuk. We're not sure yet. We'll have to see how that plays out. But I think that, you've got Kyle Shanahan calling plays. You got Brock Purdy at quarterback. You still have two All-Pros in George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. I'm taking my chances. I'm sorry. And if the 49ers regret this sort of under-the-gun deal that they signed with Brandon Ayuk last year, you think they're going to do another one of those with Jauan Jennings? If you think they regret that Ayuk contract, Ayuk has produced in a way Jauan Jennings never has. So I just can't see the 49ers doing this, paying him beyond this year. If they give him a bump, they can give him a bump. But other than that, I don't think you're going to see a new 5-year deal for Jauan Jennings. I would be stunned if that's actually what happened. I would be floored if that happens. Robert watching on YouTube says I would give Jauan Jennings a bump and add a year, but the second round pick is a problem. What second round pick? Throw another comment in the chat. Let's get to the bottom of that. I would not add a year. You drafted all these wide receivers for a reason. You didn't draft them just to take up roster spots. You drafted them to replace the guys that you knew you didn't want to pay. So that's why I wouldn't do it. JM617 says, in all honesty, we'll know by the end of week 5 if the season is a wash or not. I don't agree with that at all. Alex C says 2024 Ayuk was hot garbage. A lot of people seem to think that. Wedge Antilli says, besides Jauan Jennings, who else is taking defensive backs into the Gatorade cooler? You don't need a wide receiver to block guys into the Gatorade cooler. You just need them to block. Like, I think that people fall into a habit of, well, we have to replace somebody with somebody that does exactly the same thing as the guy that left does. And that's not the case. You might have to do things a little bit differently, but you can still get things done. Other teams won games last year without Jauan Jennings, shocking as it may seem, right? Other teams seem to find a way to get by. So let's not act like Jauan Jennings is an irreplaceable player, even though he blocks really hard. I get it. Other receivers can block hard too. I promise. It's not against the rules. Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and all these guys, they can block too. They're allowed. Carpenter says Purdy locks in on Jauan Jennings on third down. Without him, at least it won't be so damn predictable. Well, that would be a very real sort of consequence if Jauan Jennings is not out there, because Brock does look to Jauan on third down, as well he should. Jauan is excellent on third down. If he was not out there, who is the guy that gets those looks, right? It's probably Kittle or McCaffrey first and foremost. You would think the defense is going to be keying in on them. Not surprising. So then it's going to come down to one of the young, unproven guys. Can Pearsall get open on third down when he needs to? Can Jacob Cowing do it? Can Jordan Watkins do it? We don't know. Maybe they can. You would like to think Ricky Pearsall should be able to. He was drafted in the first round for a reason, right? Like, you would like to think your first round pick is capable of stepping up and being a number one wide receiver. That's why you get drafted in the first round. But man, it's crazy how much of that pick of Ricky Pearsall was like seen as a luxury pick at the time, right? Like, oh my God, what are the 49ers doing? How could they have taken a wide receiver? They don't even need a wide receiver. And then bam, Brandon Ayuk's knee gets destroyed. All of a sudden, Jauan Jennings, wants more money in a contract situation. And all of a sudden you're in a situation where, damn, you really need Ricky Pearsall to step up. And thank God they have Ricky Pearsall, because what would they have without him, right? Now, the other possibility that we haven't really discussed is, let's say they do trade Jauan Jennings, get back whatever they get back for him, 5th round pick, 6th round pick, whatever. Do they then go out and sign a free agent wide receiver? Do they sign like what? I don't even know who's out there. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper at this point? Would that be something that the 49ers would want to do? These guys are certainly veteran guys. I don't know how much they have left in the tank. They don't know the system, so they'd have to get up to speed on the system pretty quick. That's a real thing. So then if you're John Lynch, right, you have to ask yourself, are we better off with Jauan Jennings, or are we better off with an extra late round pick and a veteran wide receiver, a new veteran wide receiver, whoever that may be? Or I suppose it's possible you could get a wide receiver back in the Jauan Jennings trade. I suppose that's possible too. I don't know. Here's the thing. If you're going to spend the money on a free agent wide receiver, wouldn't you just give that money to Jauan Jennings and make the situation go away? Now, maybe Jauan wants more. Maybe they tried to do that already, and he just wants more years, and the 49ers maybe don't want to give it to him. So maybe they've already tried that and it hasn't worked. I don't know. I haven't seen any reports out there that would say that. So, we would be able to make some of these choices if we had a little bit more information. But, I saw this morning. I would have gone live sooner, but I was literally in the parking lot of the movie theater. I took my son to see the new Superman movie. And I was like, oh, there goes the drama-free offseason. Then I had to go into the movie. Just, we can't have nice things. We were this close. And I think if you're the 49ers now, whatever the resolution to this is, whatever you want it to be, whether you give him an extension, whether you trade him, whatever, get it over with fast. Get it over with before camp. You've got 2 weeks now, right? Do it. If you're going to trade him, trade him. If you're going to pay him, pay him. But get the uncertainty and the drama over with. If you trade him, yeah, it might be a bummer, but he's going to be gone. He's not going to be there. You turn the page to a new season and you move on. If you're going to pay him, then just pay him. Don't let him show up to camp without a deal, unhappy, causing problems, right? It is within your power to resolve this situation one way or another. Set a deadline, stick to it, and be done with it. That is my hope. However, the 49ers resolve this situation, please just have it be resolved before training camp begins. I don't know that they will. I hope they do. Con KJ says instead of signing another wide receiver, you could just give George Kittle more targets. I would love that too. Strawberry React says Amari Cooper played in Cleveland, which is an offshoot of the West Coast offense. I'm not saying like it would be impossible for guys to learn the system at all. Of course they could, but it's something. It's a hurdle that would have to be, overcome a little bit. That's all. So that's my hope. Rookies report for training camp tomorrow, and then veterans report for training camp a week after that. By the time that happens on the 22nd, 21st, around there, this situation better be over with. I do not want to be talking about the Jauan Jennings situation. What are they going to do? Is he causing problems? None of that. You can still have the drama-free offseason because you could squash the drama one way or another right quick. But I want everybody, when training camp opens, to be full speed ahead, focused on being the best possible football team that they can be in 2025. I want everybody pulling in the same direction. All the contract situations resolved. Everybody focused 1,000% on football and nothing else, because we haven't had that around here in a couple years, and it's hurt the team. So figure it out, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Whatever you're going to do, just do it. This should not linger. We do not need a week of what are they going to do with Jauan Jennings shows. No, I'm sorry. Absolutely not. Strawberry React says, what was Michelle's response? I actually haven't texted her. Let me shoot her a text real quick and see. I'm sure she'll get a kick out of it, because she and I were just arguing about Jauan Jennings on our Bleacher Report show. She's never been a Jauan Jennings fan, but there's no reason to not have this resolved. Keeping the Faith says, we saw wide receiver 1. Jennings was 975 and 6 touchdowns. He's replaceable. I agree. And C says, I don't blame Jennings at all. Get it while you can. Absolutely. I agree with that too. Again, nobody is the bad guy. Oh, Michelle has texted back, quote, bye-bye Jennings. We're on the same page on that one. We're on the same page. Salvador says, just pay the man. Who the heck is going to want to trade for Jauan Jennings? Well, I think that's what the 49ers are thinking. See, that's how you sort of you end up almost overthinking it, right? Because you're like, all right, Jauan Jennings wants more money. If we don't pay him, he wants to be traded. But nobody else wants Jauan Jennings, so we can't trade him. But if nobody else wants him, then why do we have to pay him? So, it's almost like a circular feedback loop. So you just have to decide what you want to do and do it, quite frankly. Filthy Casual asks, is Jauan Jennings still going to practice? Well, we don't know, right? Right now, there is no practice. We know that he's still planning on reporting to camp, but reporting to camp and participating in camp are two very different things. And, it could be a situation, just sort of thinking this through, right? Let's say the Niners don't do anything with Jauan Jennings by the time camp opens, and he reports, but he doesn't participate, right? My hamstring, my back, whatever. He's got one of those quote unquote injuries, and he doesn't participate. But then they get out in the field, and all of a sudden, Ricky Pearsall looks really good, and Jacob Cowing looks really good, and Jordan Watkins looks really good. Maybe the 49ers go, you know what? We're not doing anything. We'll take our chances, or the reverse could happen. Maybe Pearsall gets hurt again, right? Or Cowing gets dinged up, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, shoot. Now you're really scared. So maybe that motivates the 49ers to give Jauan Jennings a few extra dollars, right? Because I think the calculation you have to go through too is like, if Jauan is willing to just take a bump this year and not extend the years, if he's okay with doing that, the bump you have to give Jauan is probably cheaper than what it would cost to sign a free agent, at least a decent free agent of the guys that are left, right? So if that's the case, then you should absolutely give him the bump. Like, why not? He can produce in the system. You know what you're getting. He doesn't have to learn the system. Like, that's a no-brainer. That's the question, is where are his financial insights? I think he's due $7.5 million. If you give him 10, 10.5, 11, is that enough? If he wants 15, are you willing to go that high? I don't know. I wouldn't be again. Law of Law says he's going to freaking hold out / participate. Don't blame him, but what the WTF knows how important he is to Kyle, probably a lot. I don't know. I don't know if Kyle, I'm sure he likes Jauan Jennings, but does he view him as irreplaceable? I don't know. It's a good question. Only Kyle can answer that. JM617 says, even as the known wide receiver one, Jennings wasn't wowing defensive coordinators into honing in on him and taking him away. I agree with that. Like, I don't think any defensive coordinator was up at night, unable to sleep because they had to face Jauan Jennings the next week. No, I don't think so. No. And that doesn't mean Jauan Jennings isn't a good player. It just means he's not a true number one guy. And oh boy. Okay. Strawberry reacts. I love you, but come on. Strawberry says, send him to the Commanders for Terry McLaurin. First of all, if the Commanders were dumb enough to do that, I would do that in a second. They're not dumb enough to do that. Adam Peters knows exactly what Jauan Jennings is. That is not happening. But hey, make a phone call, right? After Adam Peters' laughter dies down, you could hang up the phone. Doesn't hurt to call and inquire. But no, that is not happening. That is like, if anything, you would have to trade Ayuk and Jauan Jennings maybe for Terry McLaurin just to have even a hope of getting that done. But no, that is not happening. As much as I would like it to happen, I think we would all agree if you could trade Jauan Jennings for Terry McLaurin, you would do it. That is not a realistic scenario, unfortunately, for the 49ers. But it's interesting because Jauan is one of those guys that fans love, right? Because he's one of those guys that is not like an all-time player, but has had big plays in big moments for this team in big games. And Jauan Jennings absolutely has that. The Super Bowl being the biggest and best and most recent example of that. For sure. He's a guy that you will love forever as a 49ers fan. No doubt about it. I got in trouble for saying that Brent Jones is not a 49ers legend. To me, Jauan Jennings and Brent Jones are like at the same level. Guy that you love, a guy that played well for you, but not a guy that, it goes down as one of the all-time great players in your team's history. Just not. And Jauan Jennings certainly has a lot more signature moments than Brent Jones, for sure. Strawberry says it would just be funny for Ayuk to see both his former wide receivers end up on a team with Jaden. That would be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny. He'd be like, damn, man, everybody's getting traded there except me. Speaking of Jaden Daniels, by the way, I was planning on talking about this before all the Jauan Jennings news broke, but Jeremy Fowler he's polling NFL executives and people around the league and getting rankings, top 10 rankings for every position. We talked about Kittle not being number one on the tight end list, which still boggles my mind, but the quarterback list came out today. I don't think I'm necessarily stunned or shocked, but Brock Purdy is not on it. According to the people polled, Patrick Mahomes was 1. I'll scroll down. Josh Allen, 2. Number 3 on the list, Joe Burrow. Lamar Jackson, 4. 5 is Jaden Daniels of the Commanders, which I think is a little too high after one season. Matthew Stafford is 6, despite the fact that he had less total touchdowns than Brock Purdy last season. Justin Herbert, 7, Jim Harbaugh's guy. Jared Goff, 8. Don't know why he's ahead of Brock Purdy. Jalen Hurts, 9, coming off a Super Bowl. Another good Super Bowl performance for Jalen. And Baker Mayfield is at number 10. That is the list. In case you're wondering, if you scroll down, Brock Purdy was not in the honorable mention section, but he was in the also receiving votes section alongside Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, and Bo Nix. Now, some people may be going crazy about this. I'm not going crazy. I think Brock is a top 10 quarterback. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world for people to not put him in the top 10. I personally think he is. I wouldn't have Jared Goff in ahead of him. If you ask me 100 times out of 100 which quarterback I'd rather have, Jared Goff or Brock Purdy, I would take Brock Purdy every time, regardless of age and regardless of contract. Just Jared Goff is not it for me. Sorry. He never will be. But whatever. People have him there. Didn't bug me that much. I don't know. How do you feel about it in the chat? Do you think it was crazy? Khan says Daniels and Stafford are way too high. Stafford Stafford's tricky to me. He is still incredibly physically talented. He's still the arm talent he has, the arm strength he has, the throws he can make, still there. The toughness, he's still one of the toughest freaking quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe the toughest. But also, like, it hasn't been great. It's been less of the sum of his parts, I feel like, recently, right? Like I said, he put up fewer total touchdowns last year than Brock Purdy did. That's a real thing. Even though he's more physically talented than Brock Purdy, he threw 20 touchdowns last year, 24 the year before that. Now, in 2022, he got hurt, so he only threw 10. The year before that, he threw 41 in his first year with the Rams and won the Super Bowl. But the Stafford that won the Super Bowl is not the same as the Stafford we've seen recently. But it's weird that he still has so much physical talent, and yet that physical talent hasn't translated to greater production on the field for him. That is weird. And he has a great play caller with Sean McVay, so it's definitely surprising. Astro says Stafford is just old, probably a top 3 high IQ quarterback. That's definitely part of it too. Definitely a high IQ quarterback. Let me just make a quick topic bar. There we go. Brock Purdy. Yeah, that's eloquent, Rob, but it'll get the job done. Let's see. Salvador says Purdy should be at number 7 or 8, in my opinion. Filthy Casual says at least Dak isn't on there. He's overrated and overpaid. I'm surprised Daniels is as high up there. Like, he's only played for 1 year. I get it was a surprise year. They went to the NFC Championship game. They got schmotzed in the NFC Championship game, by the way. But, yeah, I don't know. 5 already? Again, I like to take 2 years before I label anybody a franchise quarterback. If you're top 5 in the league, you're saying that's a franchise quarterback. I want to see it. I would be not shocked at all if Jaden Daniels' numbers went down this year. Not because he's bad, just because there's film on him and all that type of thing. So I want to see him do it before I want to put him in the top 5. I personally would have Josh Allen ahead of Patrick Mahomes at number 1. I don't know what more Josh Allen has to do. He's been amazing. He does not have an incredible surrounding cast. Joe Burrow, like, if you gave Josh Allen the receivers that Joe Burrow had, good Lord, like, all your knocks on Josh Allen would disappear. I promise you, if that happened. So to me, he's number 1. Brisbee Life says Hurts below Jared Goff is wild too. Hurts is a tricky one. Hurts is real hard to evaluate because he's got great wide receivers, great weapons around him. Everything that everybody knocks Brock for, you could easily knock Jalen Hurts for. But Jalen Hurts has also played really well in some big games. Even in the Super Bowl, I actually think he played better in the Super Bowl that they lost. But he was really good in both Super Bowls. And that does matter to me, right? Like, he has stepped up in big moments. Now, a lot of his value does come from the sneaks from the 1-yard line, which he's still going to be able to do, even if they banned the tush push, which they didn't. But a lot of his value comes from that. As a straight up passer, he doesn't have the same value as some of these other guys, but everything goes into the stew. So he's a tough one to evaluate for me. John Wallace says, this is why I always get bothered how the goalposts move for Brock Purdy, because I heard them on ESPN this morning, all the excuses all the other quarterbacks got for certain reasons, including Herbert. Herbert is definitely a polarizing one because he has not had the playoff success that Brock Purdy has had. He is not, I mean, some of his regular season, even last year, he was very good at not turning the ball over until the playoff game. I think, what did he throw? Like 3 interceptions last year? It was 23 touchdowns and 3 picks. But 23 touchdowns for a guy that's as physically talented as he is kind of surprising, right? You would think he would be able to do more with that, and yet he didn't. And the year before, he only threw 20. So now he only played 13 games that year, so that's probably part of the reason why. But Herbert's a polarizing one for sure. He's another guy, like I was talking about with Stafford, incredible physical skill, but partly through his own doing, partly through the situation around him, hasn't been able to put it all together yet. But I get why people like Justin Herbert, for sure. So those are the 2 topics. I'm sure we'll have more on this quarterback list. I'm sure Jason and Steph will have more. Levin and I will have more, no doubt. And, of course, we'll keep everybody up to date on the latest happenings with Jauan Jennings and the 49ers drama But again, I beg you, please, 49ers, please just resolve the situation before camp starts. The worst thing you can do is to not have this resolved by the time training camp starts. That is the absolute worst thing. Please just don't do that. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time here, give us a subscribe. I promise you, you will like what you see. If you come back, we'll be here all off season as we have been. We don't go anywhere. So don't worry about that. Check out the podcast anywhere you get your audio podcasts. And thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.